Okay, the lighting changed, man. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, Mad Hatter. No, I'm not that mad. I'm just saying, I mean, it's just that I like the idea of just getting to simply say whatever you want. Okay, mad. That was like a cap. Like just a normal base cap. I took off the shield. And then I sewed it shut. Okay, Mad Hatter talk about insecurity. Okay. The reason why I can basically do any subject as a Mad Hatter talk is because letting go of certain ideas that are socially acceptable is already mad to some people. Which is why to most people they just live with their insecurities, and anything beyond that is, you know, just beyond. Like, yeah, you can never get there. Yeah, I just ate. I feel a bit heavy, but I wanted to feel heavy so I can, you know, probably sleep at some point and just relax a little. You know, relax. Yeah. Well, if you're full of insecurities, then you've got no time to relax, my friend. Because then you need to make experiences. And I would, yeah, dump or put the idea of transgender into the same category as insecurities. Because when you're insecure about your gender, then you will struggle to see what your job is or could be in society. Now, I get it. I'm a man, but I do not like most men. Yeah, also probably has to do a lot with early upbringing, all the childhood trauma stuff, all these, you know, like the image that men are trying to create for themselves, how they're like, I'm a real man. Yeah, but if you pinch their little chest, they're like, you know? Right? So everybody runs around like this, and they're really condescending towards everyone. And that's then what a man is supposed to be, right? Just the most condescending prick you'll ever meet is then what calls itself an alpha. Well, a true alpha doesn't have to call itself anything. You know, people follow it willingly because it's the strongest and it's got the best nose, right? It just has some kind of a direction, you know, it just knows how to navigate, knows where the prey is, right? And it can lead people. That's like from wolves, how it actually works with wolves. A chief in a village is simply the most promising guy who's actually, you know, pure of heart, knows how to shine his light. It's like this, you know, like bam, just a presence. And people know they can rely on him, right? I mean, he's just there, he's strong, he's uncorruptible. So yeah, I mean, today's men, You know, people worship the men that are the most corrupt and get away with it. Yes, so it's like people who just look at the money and at the objects someone else has. They then say, yeah, you know, super rich people are my idols and that's how I want to be. I want to run around in a suit and I just want to pretend, right? I just want to condescend. I just want to be the best guy there is. That's basically the modern day idea of, you know, what a man, you know? Probably clean-shaven face, you know, most cases, has to wear probably suits or something, has to look a certain way, mostly clean-shaven, you know. And that's then people like the CEO or whatever of Tesla, who stole the name of Tesla from Nikola Tesla, who was really a true inventor. And then suddenly it's just a money power play. And has nothing to do with the original Tesla, it's just like, yeah, whatever. It's just a marketing trick. Okay, the guy who was supposed to have invented Microsoft and Windows, just look at the operating system, it's complete trash. Right? It's just complete trash. It doesn't run well, it's really annoying, too much stuff to distract you, just keeps you away from the important things. Which is why I prefer Linux. And then we come to insecurities. Well, you know, I'm just trying to give you a few ideas why people are insecure, because they look at liars that are out in the open and that everyone worships, you know, they just put them on a pedestal and say, wow, that guy's great, you know, because he does this. But in terms of masculinity, they got nothing. And they're all really insecure, right? I mean, there's people that just stutter and they're being called geniuses. But if their energy isn't flowing, how can they be a genius if they cannot even express themselves, like honestly? And then you can see in many people, there's so much stuff like emotions they're holding on to. And of course, I mean, children are able to pick up on these things. And they see there's a bunch of liars just lying about everything. And we're supposed to buy that from them. Because now they're supposed to be, in a position where they can discipline us, you know. A discipline used to be something else. A discipline used to be, you know, you're doing this until you get better at it. That used to be a discipline. And then you would also focus simply on your individual development. It wouldn't be so much about all this competition, you know. It wouldn't be about it. Because each child would be seen as an individual. Right? Some children must be trained like shamans. Some children must be trained like, maybe more like warriors. Some children must be trained like chiefs. Some children must be trained like, you know, leaders. Some are more there to just follow orders. So it takes a gentle soul, but with the firmness, to actually train a child. There has to be like a real initiation into manhood, like a ritual. And normally by the group or the tribe, the child would be shown, this is a man, you know, like full potential, you know, 100% a man. And then this is a woman, 100% a woman. You know, just like, bam, that's my role in society. But we live during these times where nobody wants to acknowledge this anymore. They say, well, I can do this, I can do that. Well, it's all messed up. And so what you get a lot from also, I have watched some transgender discussions. Well, what I have the feeling is that often these children just want to trigger these supposed adults, because what transgender is mostly about is also a play on words. In a sense, like, I don't give a crap what you say I'm supposed to be. That's basically what this is. Like, this is, of course, part of the rebellion. I just have the feeling that it's a bit too toxic, because there's a lot of emotions in these young people that just go haywire. And then they look for an outlet because they've been tormented all their life, just as I have. And now they're looking for a way out. So their idea then is, oh wow, I can express myself however I want. You know, then they actually have a penis, right? But they say, but I'm a woman. So now I can change that, you know, I can use words to simply change who I am. And then I can have surgery. But spirituality is about acceptance. So you simply have to accept that there are insecurities. And then you gotta work with them. This is like working with your fears and your desires, which is being taught in some cultures, not to the masses, because there's simply too many people. So India is no longer, you know, the way you think about the Bhagavad Gita or whatever. That's just what I perceive from here, right? I haven't been to India, but if you hear about mass rapings and stuff, and they have pornography as well, you know. Right, so they have the internet, that's the box of Pandora, you gotta work with that, my friend. So the idea is to simply look at your shadow. And I mean, in a world of plenty, there's a lot of shadow, my friend. Because there's a lot of overindulgence. People simply give in to greed. You know, you always have to be bigger and better. You know, it's more important to be bigger and better than to just be yourself. So, right, and then people say something with pronouns, and then people come and say, you know, screw your pronouns, and then I say, well, just be yourself, you know. I mean, because people who get angry at, let's say, transgender, they don't get it. Because these people look for an outlet. They want to have a tussle. And you see that a lot in these discussions, where there's like one guy and then there's these woke, you know, wokies, or there's then transgender people, and then they're trying to have a discussion. Everyone just wants to be right, you know? But most of these are just children. So they lack life experience, and they have no idea what they're talking about. They've probably read a lot. They probably think they're smart in some kind of a way. But what this is mostly about is just about being right, you know? Just about just holding your position, just saying something that gets you attention and then just clinging to it. Because that's also what it seems to be about. A lot of children just miss the attention of their parents or of their elders because it's usually some children that are being favored, like the most promising one. And I think that's partly a mistake. I mean, you should support everyone in a certain way. Some people need more attention and some need less. Now, I don't think we're a bit like shoe builds. I suppose we're not like shoe builds who just let one offspring die. I mean, in terms of food, we have no excuse, right? We have to know how to feed our child. But in terms of spirit, some people just go down the drain. Although we live in a world of plenty, how is that possible? Well, spiritually we're all kind of struggling. I mean, there are few individuals, probably such as I, who have simply worked hard on their connection to spirit and who had something like, I mean, who know what a ritual looks like and who know how to hold their own kind of ceremonies. But a lot of children or young adults, or also adults in general, I mean, that's like 90% of the people, have no idea what spirit is or feels like. They have no direction in life because what they grew up was just seeing liars. And we all know the truth deep inside of us, which means that it's simply, I mean, it just needs to happen. It's just people are sick of lies, and so they may kind of like extrapolate by just telling the most preposterous lies there are, and then just sacrificing themselves in the pursuit of truth, just by showing how people who have different opinions are being treated by the masses. Because let's say somebody just steps out into the open and just says, you know, that's my gender, and then people attack him for that or her. I mean, that just shows openly what's going on. I mean, there were times where people, you know, were marketing certain symptoms into diseases, and anyone who spoke up against that, you know, was just attacked. Like he was like the worst kind of criminal. So it's like these mass dynamics where people feel strong in the group, but alone they're really weak. It's quite interesting because I feel sometimes, because I have trouble trusting people because everyone is so phony these days, you know, I feel like I stand good on my own, you know. If there were lots of other people, they would just block me all the time. You know, they'd talk over me, they'd have to show that they're better than me, whatever. I say if you've got something to do, then do it. If you've got nothing to do, you know, then either find something or get out of my way. Insecurities, I mean, how are you supposed to have a firm like footing in life if what you're standing on is really wobbly? And a lot of the ideas these children have about gender, but also many adults that never spiritually really grew up, because they never went to the boundary of what they knew about themselves. You have to re-stretch out your boundaries by making new and challenging experiences. But if you're just at home all the time, or in a city environment and you just look at screens and that's your reality, well, no wonder you're confused. No wonder you're insecure about your place in the community. So you just look for something to piss people off or to define yourself. Yeah, I must be something like this. I must be something like that. Well, the better approach is to simply remember your roots. Remember where you came from. With that I mean to say, look at your ancestors, ask yourself what used to be natural for your people. Like, what was the originally, like, just a couple of generations back. I mean, I don't know much about my family, but I know that my ancestors have also lived in, like, maybe like Siberia or something. I mean, I respond well to nature. I respond well to, you know, feeling like I wish to challenge myself in the cold. I respond really well to walking barefoot. I respond really well to animal movement and figuring out, you know, like, my mind is like really chuck, you know, I like to solve things, which means I'm a survivor, which means that me as a spirit in an environment that basically feasts on spirits, tries to keep them dumb and then extracts their life force out of them simply by selling them junk they don't need and then getting them addicted to it. Right? It's like leaning on your habit of watching movies. That's an addiction. You define yourself with that, but it actually sucks you dry. It sucks the life out of you. That's the dark crystal. You know, if you like watching movies, that's what I keep saying to people. I never just stopped anything. I first made sure I was ready to let it go. And then in the meantime, I was looking for things to replace it. So you have to get to know yourself, which is why you look at all the clues you can gather. You look at the movies you've watched so far, like, okay, what does this say about me? Because I can say for myself, I usually was really interested in like action adventure, fantasy, because I've got an open mind, right? Fantasy, action adventure. I was more interested in these hero stories. I liked anime, Naruto, well, One Piece, I stopped with that, but I liked it in the beginning. It just got too, you know. For a while I liked these the Bourne things, but I don't know, anime really stuck. It's just a nice way of expression. It's just hard sometimes to find something good there because there's also so much trash. And you can tell that a lot of the mangaka are lacking experience outside of a city environment, which makes their shows overly childish and just basically a symbol of frustration, which is why all of them have to have like super huge breasts, because they're lacking the firmness, right? They always make fun of the girls with small breasts because they lack firmness, you know, like highly developed yogi rarely have big breasts. Highly developed yogi are usually really slim, like feline, cat-like. And that's just the way it is. And that comes with a lot of acceptance. I mean, I think there are different kinds of humans. And I think that, or feel more or less, it's not so much thinking, it's just the feeling of knowing something because it feels right, that's different. And that's how I talk, like, more like I feel. So the thinking is, for me, thinking is not Most people, they think that they sit around and they think with words. And then they just generate ideas that are based on just words. But with me, everything is based on my experiences and then observing things and then feeling how I feel about it. And then I express that later into words. Which is why when I talk, I'm not talking like chick, 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 chick. I'm more talking like this, you know? So in the end, everything kind of flows together. And sometimes I meander, you know, into different areas, but it's still part of the same river. But this part of the same river is basically just my own life, which is why you may have problems to relate to what I'm saying, simply because you're lacking experiences. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Because if you just sit around and you just cling to what you think you know because you've read stuff and other people have told you things, then it's hard to follow what I'm saying because my way of life is completely intuitively and I've trained my intuition. So insecurities can be overcome by having faith in what one, you know, that what one feels like deep down in oneself is actually the right thing. So also in relation to other people, of course, but I think the journey starts with yourself. So what I started doing to work with my insecurities was training my intuition, which is you leave the house and then I don't know where you live, right? But you can just test this. Just let your feeling decide where you want to go. But it should be with the intention of just having a nice kind of like walk. So you leave, that's my idea, you know. Cannot recommend this because I don't know where you're going to do it. And I don't know whether you're secretly looking for trouble. So my idea was always stay out of trouble, just discover nice things, right? So I would leave the house and then I would get to a junction, right? And then I would ask my feeling, where do I want to go? Do I feel drawn to the right? Do I feel drawn, let's say, straight? Do I feel drawn left? You may even feel drawn back, but for me back was not an option because I was looking for a round way. I wanted to walk a round way. So I would, you know, if I get out of the house and then you go left, you start walking, you cannot go back. You have to walk like a circle. That's my idea. And so I started to train my intuition in such a way. I have talked about it in my podcast. It's fairly in the beginning. That's when I started doing things. But it was all intuitively, right? And then I kept on going. And I got better. And I realized that certain things simply worked. So sometimes I had the feeling I was going for a walk. And sometimes my feeling was intentionally stalling for time. So I would go to a certain place and then I would walk around. There was some kind of an area and I just walked in circles. Not like short circles, but there was a round and I walked around there maybe 20 minutes. And then I walked back, like, and then I came to a place and then I met someone that I knew. And these kind of things happen more often. You know, you leave the house and you just feel like there's someone you want to meet. And then you just keep on walking until you find them. But you of course have to know whether you really want to find them. What I realized at some point is that it's better to look for yourself than for other people, because other people are usually distractions. And they often kept me away from what I actually wanted. So I believe that in a sense, the law of attraction works also if you simply keep on honing your skills in your own way. You don't look for people, but people may come to you. That's just my experience. That a lot of the people that, I don't know, sometimes people came and I had great teachings, but often I also had to face a lot of darkness. And there were situations where I was afraid of my life. So sure, I mean, I confronted a lot of my fears in such a way, but it's also the reason why I can never recommend this, because you don't know where you're gonna land. I just wanted to know the truth about the place where I live. And I realized that I met a lot of the people who are involved in drug activities. And for some time I spent time with these people. They never openly really said these things. And I couldn't really ask them about it, like where they got their money or something. I just had to observe. And because I observed them, I later, when I became more and more energetic, I knew how to stay away from them, because now I had a feeling of how their energy pattern feels like. I can sniff them out now. When I walk around, I leave the house, I can feel, literally, when I see someone, I have a bad feeling about him, I can see who he is connected to. It's like a mind map with everyone I meet. I can feel there are certain similarities. I feel that there are like connections. They know, I have met one of the drug lords of this area, and I spent a lot of time with him, but I didn't know, or at least I wasn't aware. I became aware only afterwards. There were some tight spots. I have already discussed these in all kinds of places. But so yeah, I had a lot of insecurities myself, because I just wasn't sure. Because people were trying to create an image of themselves, which just wasn't true. Like, yeah, always smiling, yeah, what a friend, nice, shaking hands and hugging and all that kind of stuff. And I was betrayed many times by such people. So the best people you can meet are basically like this. They hold their own ground, they won't hug you, they won't shake your hand, they're just like this, hands off, I keep my own space, I keep myself clean. Politicians are all dirty. Handshakes, it's all dirty. It's just dirty business. They're just selling their souls to anyone. Because they themselves are not enough. So they just leech off on anything. So yeah, I mean, I get it. People are insecure. And I think that's all I have to say. I mean, I just had a really couple of tough years. And now that I kind of feel like I have left certain things behind, the shadow of what I lived through, there's a lot of shadow, my friend. And I can still feel it. And I just don't know what's gonna come out of it. But what I know is that I certainly learned a couple of things about maintaining boundaries, about listening to my feeling. You know, I don't just leave the house. I leave the house when I feel like now is a good time. I also know when, you know, I feel like sometimes I'm being haunted. So of course this is about spirituality. This is about seeing the other side. This is about looking at the underbelly of society. This is about looking at the dirty laundry of the mayor. Right? So when you feel insecure about something, there's probably something to it. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't feel right. You know, I just trust that. And then I just hone those skills that I need to survive as a spirit, as a conscious being, you know. And that's just what I feel. I mean, I don't fully trust a lot of people. I mean, basically no one. I learned to keep secrets to myself. Because sometimes you tell things to people and they use it against you, even what appears to be family. I believe that as a spirit, there's no real thing like family. To me, there's just manifestations. What presents itself as family often still has a different kind of side to it. And I mean, mothers can be like the witch in the gingerbread house. And as a child, I've had dreams of being raped by like old witches. So I'm just saying, you just have to look at all these things and then just trust yourself. Like I said, I don't really trust other people. To a certain degree I do, but I'm always, you know, a bit suspicious. But I'm looking also for stability, so I learned to simply respond to my own needs, so I cannot be made, you know, dependent. People who have weird thoughts or weird ideas, I mean, disturbing thoughts or ideas, and have fun with such things, I just say you're not child-friendly. So I have to protect my light, otherwise it will be overshadowed. So I simply remind people that they should do their cleansing. And so I usually reduce the amount of time I see you when I realize you seem to lack restraint. So I'm not interested in greedy people. Wow. And that's just some of the things. You know, maybe you have a few suspicions and you have phrased them sometimes and people always say, why? No. Like I said, my own mother wants to pull me into the shadows. You know, trust me on that one. I've tested this. And you go to her and you say, I have the feeling that this and this. And she says, no, why would you think that? Yeah, the all-devouring mother, my friend. My mother has used fear for many years to control me. But when I ask her about it, she always lies, every time. She just lies about everything. And I have figured it out by now. She lies about every single thing, and every time she tries to turn me around and use me like a toy. And I simply started to reject it. But there's of course boundaries. So I'm still then, okay, I mean, that's the only tribe I have. That's the only people I know. So to only demonize them is probably not the right way to go. So you simply have to walk the middle way, all the way. But there's just people I stay away from because I feel like they've got too much shadow. I'm not sure, I think I'm fairly new in the game. I may have experience, but if it comes to like all the social stuff, I'm quite reserved for my own personal reasons. Because I'm not here for party, I'm not here for fun. I'm here for seriously saying like, what the heck, man? Like, what have people become? So yeah, I mean, sort yourself out, do your planks, stop eating so much sugar, reduce the coffee. I just can tell you the same kind of thing I say all the time, and then in the end it's make experiences, go into nature. And then look for actions and not for words, People who sit around talking just sit around talking. People who do a lot, you rarely see them. When I stand here and talk, when I do a podcast episode, then I'm talking. But I'm not talking that much. I'm not talking about so much what I'm going to do. I'm more talking about what I've done and what I've realized because of what I've done. And that's why I don't really need to quote people, but I quote them if there are things I say that I kind of like got from them. But made sure that I feel the same way because I have experienced it in my own life, and because I have observed adequately, I can say, yeah, I think that fits. So yeah, Steve Jobs connecting the dots. Then maybe Terence McKenna, right? I have no real interest in all of this microdosing. If I do something, if I drink, when I used to drink coffee, I drink a coffee, yeah? And then just see where it gets me. But coffee is simply too toxic. So now I changed away from it to tea, more like hiking, and then just pushing my boundaries and seeing where I land. Okay. But yeah, for now I think that's enough, because the last couple of weeks I have done a lot for this show. And sometimes you just feel like you want to reduce certain practices and just keep it at a minimum. And that's how I feel about YouTube at the moment. I mean, it's not entirely true. It's just that not every video has to be 2 hours. So I think it's enough about insecurities. You just have to toughen up, man. You're too wobbly. You're insecure because you're shaky. So if nobody tells you to toughen up, then you have to tell yourself to toughen up, you know. Cold showers. No, you can also do first hot, but in the end always cold. Going barefoot as much as you can. Depends also on where you live. I mean, you can collect like pebbles or gravel. You can even buy it in a shop. And then you create a space in your apartment with gravel, right? Let's say you don't have a lot of nature around. Let's say you don't have, like you could have like a basin or something. And then you just put gravel in there and small stones and stuff. And then you just start walking on that. That'll sort out your feet. And that will start to give you more stability depending on where you are. Maybe you're really weak, really sick, and really vulnerable, and you may not manage to get into nature. Like, you could do that living in the middle of Tokyo, I'm just saying. You could do that in the 10th floor living in some skyscraper. Just need gravel. You know, I'd have like small and bigger stones, you know, maybe a bit of soil, I don't know. You know, it's also nice, a bit of soil. And then you just have this basin. And once in a while, I mean every day, you just have to walk through it and do like this, let's say. And I could do this myself and just see how it works. I have a basin, I could do it. Because sometimes maybe I don't feel like going into nature, then I could still do this. And then you just stand in this. I'm just saying. You can even lie on it with your back for 10 minutes a day. And then once in a while you can take the stones, you can clean them underwater, and then you put it back. And I think that could be a really good way of starting to sort out your weaknesses, you know, maybe in a city environment. And then when you feel like you're making good progress, you transition and you say, okay, I think I'm getting stronger now. I feel certainly less weak. And then you make sure you get somewhere into nature. So maybe you have to first save money or you have to save time. So while you're sorting out your little, you know, blockages, because down here are all the triggers. You need to start triggering your change, you need to start triggering it here, because that's your basis, right? That's the lowest point of your physical manifestation. That's where you have to start. And I just gave you super easy methods. You can buy pebbles. You can have them probably shipped from the internet. It's not expensive. I can get here 25 kilos of pebbles for 8 euros. So I'm just saying. But I wouldn't just take the big ones. I take a mixture of big and kind of like small ones, and then probably mix it with soil. And then I'd have a basin with water, because now you're in an apartment, of course. And you know, you need a towel, basin of water. When you're done, you just rinse your feet. You know, that water goes into the toilet. And then, you know, you're set for the next day. That's a good approach. You don't have to tell anyone. You can do this by yourself. You can simply see how it goes. Also, if you have knee injuries, or you just went through some kind of like surgery, you have lower back problems, you have migraines, that's all connected to these trigger points in your body, which is why I basically sleep on the ground. And if you just make yourself a mattress with some pebbles on it, you can just lay on that 10 minutes a day, and it's probably going to sort out all your little malformations. You know, energy is going to start flowing into your arms. There's all these trigger points. You know, I've been doing this over years. Acupressure, that kind of stuff. Because once the energy starts flowing, you're going to feel like you're going insane. It's like, what? Yeah? You're going to vibrate on such an insane level, but that's your way back to the meditative mind. That's the way back to focusing. You can lie on such a mattress. I mean, now I hear myself talk about this, I want to do it. You know, you're going to lie on a mattress and you're going to feel there's this one trigger point and it's just exactly being hit by the stone. You just lie on this, and what you have to do is you just go into the pain. I have had this before. I mean, I meditated sometimes. I went into the pain just through meditation, like a portal, into the pain, and it dissolved. It's simply, I find it incredibly hard to do, but it's also when you do yoga postures, you hold these for a long time. And then sometimes, or you do stretches, just anything. And then I think this is mostly about yin yoga, where you hold poses, stretches for long periods of time, these deep stretches. I'm not sure if they're good, but I had moments where my hands started like prickling so intensely that it felt like this. I mean, intense things can happen to you when you get the energy to flow. Wow. I mean, I often get dizzy, but I know how to catch myself. So now I was just getting tired, and suddenly I start doing things intuitively. But I always get tired again. So I also do feel like we do need rest or sleep. It's a great way to recover. You know, the mountain is high and it gets ever higher, which is why you need the roots. A mountain has roots. You need roots. It's about growing. And there's days where I feel tall and then I feel small, but the changes I've gone through clearly set me apart from most people that I know. But I don't know, I'll rather be a challenge for people than just a dumpster. But yeah, I think it's actually a pretty nice idea. How could I realize this myself? Well, there's all kinds of ways. I mean, You just have to work with the material you have and what you need, you know. You can also collect stones from nature. The only problem I see with collecting soil from nature is insects. But stones, I mean, there's no insects in there, you can just clean them. And then you can simply sort out a lot of your insecurities by simply hardening your body, right? Learning to sort out your weakness and then focus. And then your vision becomes much clearer. Like I've realized that how I used to, how my vision used to improve when I was working with psilocybin truffles, I have this most of the time now, simply because I have trained my eyes. I do open eye meditations. My vision is really clear, like crystal clear. It sometimes gets blurry, but then I know what to do. I do breath holds, stretch out my chest, pull my arms back, and then sometimes I get dizzy. But I enjoy this. It's just a relief. I mean, I have fainted on breath holds. Now I don't faint anymore. And I do these sometimes during hikes, And then it gets tingly. And I lose focus for some time. I mean, I have fallen flat on my face from a chair during breath holds, which is yeah. And I can experience, because now I have problems with my lower back. Energy flow is clearly restricted in my lower back. And because I have just eaten, I also feel kind of stuffed. I feel, sometimes there's a lot of pressure here. There's a lot of pressure in my neck, shoulders, and I feel simply this pressure. And my vision is blurry and I feel like I'm super tired. So we often carry a lot of emotional burden. Every day also our spirit actually grows. So we have to stretch out to adapt to this growth. So when I inhale deep into my stomach, that means I have extra volume. There's a pressure, right? It's like the balloon is like this. And then I fill it with air. It's like this. Suddenly it's like, wow. And then I hold the pressure. I inhale into my stomach. You can faint from that. I'm just saying. In the beginning, you may faint, which is why you have to do your planks, your hardening. You have to be tough. And then you inhale into your stomach. You make sure there's no sharp objects around you. Maybe put a little of cushions, I don't know. Like, you don't want to, there shouldn't be like a window sill here or something. I mean, probably stay away from the wall. You shouldn't be sitting on chairs. You should be on the ground. And then you inhale deep into your stomach, and then you have extra pressure and then you stretch out. Pull your shoulders back. Press your chest out. And what then happens is you stretch this, you stretch it. And suddenly the energy can flow past. This is the barrier of fear and truth and everything that caps you, like chokes you. You press it out. You can even just like this. And then suddenly you feel like there's a shift in your perception. Like I keep my eyes open like this. But I've trained this. I have done open eye meditation, sometimes for half an hour, just staring at one point. And then what often happens is it gets kind of like, and you start seeing different things. Like you can start seeing energy patterns, auras, but you have to do this kind of a cleansing. And it gets like into your head. It's almost like chaos. It's so liberating. It feels really overwhelming. You know, orgasmic. It's like, but sometimes I do this on hikes, right? So I'm hiking, you know, and then while I'm hiking, I start doing and then it's not always the same. But suddenly there's this tingly feeling up in my head. And then it's like this. I break through something. And I keep on walking, and sometimes after such a moment I feel like I'm walking on water. It is so amazing. And you just walk and it's like whoosh, and suddenly you're flowing like this. And you're holding this energy. It's like so what I realized the first time I did it, I was somewhere in nature, I just slacklined, and everything actually was quite nice. There was like a beautiful sunset, I was slacklining. And then I packed my things, I walked away, and I had a really weird feeling. Like a really weird feeling. Like something was like, I don't know, it's just like really weird. So I often felt that this, yeah. Like people encroaching onto your space, your personal space, trying to get closer to you, but from inside your mind or something. It's just weird. So what I often felt was somebody was trying to kind of like keep me small, putting pressure onto me. And I simply did, and it's like, just shook it off. Like everything that tried to like, I just did like this. Bam. Yeah, and once I was walking, I did this like, I literally fell to the ground. I got up again, kept walking. So yeah, I mean, these breath exercises are really intense. But it starts to become something you simply do automatically. So I go on a hike, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and suddenly I remember. And people who walk there, it's like, what is this guy doing? Yeah, and then you get incredibly clear. It's addictive, but you cannot do it all the time because it's strenuous as well. Now suddenly there was a rushing. I was hearing a rushing in my ear. And after I have done this, and I know now how to do it, I could not do this like 2 years ago. This noise that I was hearing is suddenly gone. So the energy is up here again. The noise, this is gone, everything is clear. And I'm not looking like distorted, it's like everything, this is like, I don't have two images anymore. I also know now how to focus on one point, which is why everything becomes really three-dimensional. So I can really see. So you have to learn this again, because all your life you've just been looking at the surface. So you've been living 2D. But nobody told you that. You've been told that, humans look, always look 3D, but it's not true. Because most people have never trained their eyes, of course. Because we only look on flat surfaces, everything's an object, and you all the time just look at screens. So in order to get your in-depth perspective back, you have to do such training, and this will take time, my friend. Like, give it a few years until you got all of this figured out, because you forgot how to live as someone with depth. Because when you look into the depth of yourself, which is like an inner kind of looking, like I can stand here and I can look into myself, I can dive into things, like my mind can do that, and anyone's mind can do that. Most people don't do that, because they don't dive. Because if you don't dive, then your perception cannot have depth. You're just gonna see everything like this. But I see everything like, right? And so I learn a lot to focus, so both eyes are looking at the same thing like this. So you focus on the tip of your finger and you move around, and suddenly your hand becomes distinguished from the background. And you do this quickly. And first I started to train this on the laptop, tracing lines of my artworks. I'm just saying. This is what it means to be hyper-focused. And then suddenly these movements like right? Everything becomes slow motion. I mean, the speed is gonna be superhuman. That's why it's called hyper-focused. I've basically done nothing but train focus. And that's what you do when you heal yourself. You focus on the pain. You don't run away from it. You don't distract yourself from it. No, you lie down. You take your finger, you press into the pain. And that's then called acupressure. And then you breathe into the pain. And then you see it dissolve. No need to cut anything open. But I'm still learning, right? Because you have to be gentle with yourself. But yeah, I've also got boundaries, right? I try to tackle every day, like one day at a time. So it's to build up until you feel more and more secure. And when you're really secure and you really know, you feel like you know what you're talking about because you've experienced it. You haven't just read about it. You've made sure you understand. Then people will ask you. Because a lot of people, they just run away, run after people to teach them. A real teacher doesn't have to run after anyone. He just does what he does. And people spend time with it. That's just what I'm saying. And I have seen the difference. I know the difference. Most people are just acting like... I'm just saying. I'm criticizing anyone. I'm not super sure about Sadhguru. He seems really phony to me. That's just what I'm saying. Anyone can have a beard. Anyone can sit around for 5 days. Well, what is he really doing? I don't know, man. Just seems like he's talking a lot. Right? If I don't see you holding planks or doing something else, I mean, he looks the way he looks. I don't want to dump too much on people, but it's like Grandmaster Wolf. I mean, that guy is super fat. I don't know. Overindulgence, cannot contain himself. Why should I believe that guy? I'm just saying. Like, I don't believe him. That's just what I'm saying. I believe what I can feel myself, right? You know, like, let's say you're a man and you're looking for a woman, and then a woman can tell you whatever she wants, but as long as she isn't here and sticks it out with me, it's meaningless what she says, right? She can say like, yeah, no, I really love you, and then she's always somewhere else, having a good time with other people, dancing around with others, and you just say, well, you know, good for you. And that's probably the moment where I will never ever pick up the phone, block her number, and just say, you know, screw it. I don't care about your development, because you want to be my wife? Yeah? You act like you're super in love, well, where are you? You don't even want to be part of my life. You just want to be selfish and do whatever you please. But marriage isn't about selfishness, and it isn't about doing whatever you please. It's about looking at the couple, the relationship, the family, and then do what the family needs. So I've just witnessed too many people lie in front of my face. Although I just discovered them. I mean, I have confronted everyone with their own bullshit. People acting afraid, and then I asked them why they were afraid. They said, I'm not afraid. Well, it just started to hail, and you know, looked at me with shocked, oh, it's starting to hail, and you went inside like, come, why aren't you coming? And you're like, what are you so worried about, man? Like, it's not that bad. Like, I'm not worried. Well, you just looked worried. No, I'm not worried. You're mistaken. Yeah, of course. I'm always mistaken. There were people that just acted super afraid. And I said, why are you afraid? And then they left, came back 5 minutes later. But I'm not afraid. Okay. I mean, I've studied fear, like really observed it. Why else did you get a certain treatment, right? Well, because I was told it was the best solution. Sounds a bit like fear. No, that cannot be. I'm not afraid. So it's about self-image, reality. Some people, they talk themselves into being like super strong, but they're actually weaklings. I talk myself into being a weakling, but I'm actually super strong. So insecurities just have to be worked out, You have to work with yourself, right? Like you have to become your own trainer. And so you get into the observer by stretching out your restrictions, and then you look at your life from the dissociated kind of space, and then you start sorting it out. And the more you like your life, the easier it also will be to associate with it again. It's like, oh yeah, I think that's more like myself. I can relate to that guy, who kind of starts to make sense a little because he actually does what he feels like. And then I have understood Zen. And then I can, face an interview, and by the questions I'm being asked, I can already see where they're going with the question, and then I can avoid being pushed into a corner or portrayed as something that I'm actually not. So you have to just outsmart everyone and then become more secure and more and more stable, and then you just have to see how you can change your life. I mean, it's going to be life-changing, right?